Afternoon again. A lot of times I don't use the screen, and because I cannot see what they have and so I like having a conversation. Because when we are talking about information on the digital space, it's a conversation. It's things that impact on our daily lives. It's the things that we do every day. When you go to the bank nowadays, your bank tells you, do you have online banking? And do you have mobile banking? And because it is so convenient for us, what do we do? A lot of times human beings, we are governed by what psychologists call biases and heuristics. So I'll just go on the side before a very elaborate introduction has been done. I will not go back, but I'll tell you what I'm doing for my PhD. I'm doing the human aspect of cybersecurity. Why? Because we humans are the problem. It is never technology. Technology, if I have a firewall and I set certain specifications as to how the firewall should behave, and if I give certain policies and say that you shall not allow this and this and this content from this particular website, the firewall will obey. It will do exactly as I have set it. But what do human beings do? We are the same ones who go and say, no. This site had been blacklisted, let us whitelist it. So blacklisting means it is not allowed into the organization or into your home network or anything, or on your phone. But then what do? For convenience purposes, we whitelist it and we say, okay. So the issue that I'm studying is, why is it that cybersecurity is still a problem? The information is ours. Cindy, it's not anyone else's. Why do we find it so hard to protect our very own information? Yeah? I think that is the first conversation that we need to have. So the people who are on the slides may have a very hard time following me because I'll be talking generally. But let's talk about reality. A few years ago, in the 1950s, when IBM was still trying to figure out how to build the first personal computer so that human beings can get access to the computer, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, we used to decide when technology would come into our lives. We would decide. Now, technologies are part of your life. You go to the hospital, you're told you need to monitor your heart rate. You buy a smartwatch. Cindy? The smartwatch is doing what? It is tracking all your activities. Okay, you decide, I need to go somewhere to visit a friend, to visit my daughter, to visit my son, to visit my parents. And I decide, okay, I don't want to drive today. What am I going to do? I'm going to use Uber. Uber can tell you, by the way, Uber can tell you your life. Everywhere you go, those people who use Uber all the time, they can tell you where you live. Uber can tell you who you visit. Uber can tell you how much you spend on trips. They'll give you all that information. How about Google? How about Google? I'm talking about real things here, right? How about Google? If Uber can tell you that and all they ask for is your name and your location, Google knows everything. Your IP address in your house. All the gadgets in your house that connect to the internet have an IP address. The IP address identifies your gadget on the internet. Just the way we have names. You can tell it is Aprielle because that is my name. And I have a specific appearance. That's how every computer is identified on the internet. Now, you go to Google and ask Google for everything. In fact, now we have very many other things. Artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. There are so many things. We no longer invite technology into our lives when we need it. Technology is controlling our lives. True or false? True. Now, Kitambo, when we had businesses, or when you had, in fact, we never used to share personal information on the internet. Someone came up with a brilliant idea, social media. WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all those things. We go, we share all our information there. So we have moved from the space of being brick and mortar, where we had, even church, I'm going there. online church. So we've moved from a place where we had brick and mortar, where we had to walk into a building, to walk to an office, to walk to the church, to walk to a school. And we have moved all our assets onto the cyberspace. Now, I'll ask you a question. When you park your car, when you go to a funny looking place, and you're asked to park your car and you have to walk for a distance, how comfortable are you? Not at all. Sindio, you're not comfortable. Or in your house, would you one day wake up and leave all the doors wide open, from the gate to the door, all of them, and you just walk? So why do we do that to our information on the internet? Because that's exactly what we do. So on the internet, we have left our doors wide open. I'll tell you this. So Kaspersky, we had a cybersecurity conference for the first time in Africa, a very big conference. I think it was about 2 months ago. Actually, it was a month before the government was hacked, which was about two weeks ago. So it should be about 7 weeks ago. So 7 weeks ago, cybersecurity professionals went to Morocco, and we were talking, and Kaspersky were giving a report on the most vulnerable countries in the world. And guess what number Kenya was in Africa? Number 1. We were number 1 in Africa. The most insecure country in Africa. And we were number 35 globally. By the time we were being attacked, the government systems and other critical infrastructure in this country were being attacked. We had moved to number 31. Again, yesterday there was a similar attack that started. Okay? And I'll explain why this happens. It's because just to give an example, if you leave your doors all wide open in your house and someone comes to steal, and they have learned everything that you use, your protection mechanisms, where you keep your keys, where you do, where you store important things, when they come back, will they struggle? No? They'll just walk in. And that's exactly what's happening. So the minute we get into your network, I will talk about Russia in a bit. The minute we get into your network, your security mechanisms, what you have put in place, will tell us if we can come back or not. Yeah? So the fact that we have actually been able to get your information and moved around, I do a lot of hacking assignments, specifically for banks, sometimes for government. I will not mention, of course, the names, but I'll tell you the things I have seen, okay? Because just so that you can protect yourselves. The longest time we get to all the databases in a bank is about half a day. It's about half a day, and we get into the core databases, and to prove that we were there, we create ourselves as members of the company, usually. So when we are going to do the presentation, we tell them, okay, this is my new account. Who created it? No one. You don't even know. For the past 3 weeks, we've been moving around your network, but you have no clue that we have gotten access to information from this computer and this computer for 3 weeks. Not aware. Normally, it takes an average of 296 days for an organization to discover a breach. That's almost a year. Yeah? That is almost a year. So we have taken all our precious information, everything that that sometimes you had to walk, to the government, you have to go and start printing your birth certificates, all this information, your ID. We have taken all this information and stored it on the internet. How many times do we walk to buildings and we are asked to leave our details? What do they ask you for? Everything, exactly. They ask you for your ID. They ask you for your phone number. They ask you sometimes where you live. They ask you for your car registration number. If you have a laptop, they ask you for the MAC address, serial number of the serial number of the. What else do they ask you for? Don't you think that's a bit too much information? And that culture needs to change. And do we begin to understand why we are the most insecure country in Africa? And it's a cultural thing. That's what I'm studying. Okay? So I'll give you a scenario. I'm sorry, the people on IT, I don't think we're going to use those things. We'll talk. We'll have a conversation, but we can go, you know? So we'll have a conversation. So a few years ago, I went to audit one of my customers. They are across Africa. Okay, so their company is in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Mozambique. And I got the opportunity to actually go to all these countries to audit. I'm auditing the same company, the same. It's not a different company, the same company. I'm the one who developed their information security strategy for them, their information security program. So I know all the information security policies, procedures, I did them. So I go to audit. I arrive in somewhere in Masai Mara. And the people at the front desk are all sharing the same password. Okay? Because they need access to get into the systems easily, and they work in shifts. Culture. That's what we do, right? Because we work in shifts. So I think, okay, that's bad. That's really bad. I go to Tanzania. Tanzania, all of us usually use access cards. We have access cards when we are walking into our offices or into buildings. You have your access card that is mapped to your particular identity to enable you to get in, right? If it's not yours, you can't get in. Sindio. I go to Tanzania. The IT managers, do we have any here? The IT manager picked me up from the parking. He knew exactly what I was going to do. Guess what? We go to the offices. The access card was hung on the door. What was the purpose of that control? To restrict access, but it's been hung on the door for everybody to use the same access card. In fact, by the time we went for break, the door was wide open. And I was doing a security audit. Culture. Exactly, culture. But I'll tell you something that I noticed. I went to Rwanda. That's the only country I saw a difference. They were very conscious. They asked me very tough questions to let me into even a server room. I had to go through strict procedures. And I was like, Rwanda is the only country that you have where your organization sits that has actually gotten this. And I asked myself, why? But if we look at their history, if we look at what happened in Rwanda, we can begin to understand why they are extra cautious. They don't trust anyone. They do not just give you their information. Now, the internet is called the Wild, Wild West for a reason. That's what we call it, the Wild, Wild West. Because there, anything goes, anything. So a few years back, 2019, we got the beautiful Data Protection Act. Okay, right after the United Kingdom, or rather the EU, actually, the European Union, came up with the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. And the reason they did this is because they realized that a lot of businesses were actually using personal information in the wrong way. We all agree that every business that I know actually runs on some form of personal information or another, maybe except software development companies. They're the ones who actually create information, yeah? But every other business, think about your bank. What is their business? Your money, which is essentially your name. Yeah? Your name, your money. Hospitals. What is their business? Your name, your health. That is their business. Government, even government, what is their business? Everything about you, that's their business, because they have all our information. So every single organization in this world runs on information. So every time I speak in conferences, I ask this one question. This is to organizations, and this is usually to people who are my peers, IT professionals. So I usually ask them, how many of you people, I ask two questions. So I'll start with the first one. I usually ask, which would you protect more? Your corporate password or your personal password? Personal. Why? Why? Why your personal password? Why? Why personal and not corporate? Because it's information about yourself. But now all these businesses that you're running are information, personal information about someone else. And until we start looking at it that way, we have got it wrong. And this is personal information of people on a magnified scale. It is so much information. And if attackers can get access to that information, then we can only begin to imagine the kind of chaos they would cause. So the India equivalent of the Huduma number, which had 1.2 billion records, was hacked in 2020. And all Indian citizens' data was sold in the dark web. It was put there. So what hackers do is they get your information, they get your passwords, they get your credentials. Then after they've gotten your credentials, they actually put them on sale on the internet. So people can download, people can do all that kind of stuff with your information. So I ask myself, why have we made our information so cheap? Why? Why are we giving our information to just everyone? How many of us even bother to read the terms and conditions when you're downloading an application? Let's be honest. Huh? They are too lengthy, exactly. You see, it's a problem. They are too lengthy. So we decide we are not going to read it because it's too lengthy. I'd rather just accept it for convenience purposes. So there's an imbalance between functionality and security. And those are the things I have to deal with every day. Even as I'm advising corporates, I'm like, okay, look, yes, we understand that we need to have our business running. But at the same time, we need to ensure that we are protecting the information of the people who have trusted us with their information. Otherwise, we will not have this business at all. So the second question I usually ask is, how many of you have an information security strategy? I usually start with an IT strategy. How many have an IT strategy, companies? All of us here have been professionals or are still professionals at some point. Did you ever see an IT strategy in your company? You had an IT strategy, yeah? At least a lot of organizations have that. And then I usually ask, okay, so this time I was presenting at a SWIFT conference in Ghana. And I was the keynote speaker on the last day. And so I opened the conference on the last day, and I asked them this question. And we had about 900 professionals from Africa and Middle East. Yeah? So we had EMEA, the EMEA region, we had about 900 professionals. And I asked them, you guys are all IT professionals here, you know? How many of you have an IT strategy? Out of 900, about 70 thereabout hands went up. Then I asked them, how many of you have an information security strategy? 2. And then I asked them, what drives your business? Information or technology? Food for thought. Information drives your business. Technology, I'm a technology professional myself. So I speak for technology, but I have to speak about the truths about technology and the ills about technology. And that's what I was teaching the children today. So we've been running around at the National Library teaching children about cybersecurity from as young as 5 all the way to 16. So I had a very hectic morning this morning. So we need to teach them young, because these are the children who've been born into the age of technology. The rest of us were somehow weaned into it. These ones woke up like this, there was already a phone. There was already an iPad. Like, technology is basically controlling their lives. And we're like, no, we need to do something, and we need to do it. We need to do it now. So I realized there was a gap in Kenya because the rest of the organizations are dealing with university students. And even I deal with people who are getting, leaving campus, who are going to work. Then I was like, no, we need to deal with the younger ones as well. So that as they're growing up, they need to understand that where we are, this space that we are in, is not exactly friendly. It is convenient, yes, but it is not exactly friendly. And we have to be aware of both the good and the ills about this, okay? So when I asked them that question, there were only 2. And I was very disturbed. And I asked them, so what drives your business? And then they said, yeah, information, as you have all said. And then I asked them, what does technology do for you? Technology is very important in this day and age, after all. I mean, we've moved all our assets onto the cyberspace. So I was like, what does technology do for you? And they said technology enables the business. So I was like, yes. So technology enables the business, but information drives your business. Which strategy should you have? Information security strategy. Exactly. That's what you should have. But now I'll tell you why it's a problem. It is a problem because anytime we talk about information security, it's assumed it's an IT thing. Okay? It's assumed it's an IT thing. When you go to the bank and give them your information, do you know that it's going to IT? Do you know that you've given your information to IT or you've given it to the company? The company. So when there's a breach, it's not IT who will come and talk to you. No, it is the company. They come as whoever, ABSA, StanChat, they come as the company. They don't come as IT. IT in any organization ni kazi ya mkono. Sisi tunafanyanga KYM. But the heavy lifters are the ones who are actually making the decisions about what happens with your information. Yeah? And this is the challenge that we are facing right now. So we have gotten a very good thing, but completely mismanaged it. From governments to organizations to individuals. Now, the UN did a study. Was it the UN or the Internet Society did a study again in 2019? And there were 44 countries that they did the study on. And they found that Kenyans are the most careless out of all the 44 countries on the internet. Have you gone to Twitter? Have you seen the things that Kenyans post on Twitter? It's like we have no breaks. Like, whatever it is you just put, you put on Twitter, you put on Facebook, you put wherever. And they found that Kenyans were the most careless globally. Because it was a global study, but they did what we do. Yeah? A sample. Yes, they did a sample. And Kenyans were found to be the most careless. Then 3 years later, we are found to be the most open in Africa. Number 35 in the world. 2 years later, our critical infrastructure is hacked. Two weeks later. Is that all by mistake or by design? That's the question. Is it by mistake or is it by design? It's by design. So we need to be very conscious and we need to be very proactive when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting our information online. Now I'll tell you how we break into these things. That's the fun stuff. Those are the things that I do for a living. I do it only after I've been paid by a company. Okay, come and help us identify what our weaknesses are. And I can tell you there are 3 things that always, any day will give us access to one computer on your network, or one server, or one digital device. There are 3 things that will give us access. And once we have that one thing, there's something I'll tell you. If you guys have the habit of, I know I'm talking to someone. If you guys have the habit of using the same password across applications, so you go to eCitizen, they tell you, log in using Google. How many of us do those things? I can see the culprits. They're laughing. Log in using Google. Because you don't want to create an account for eCitizen. You think it's easier to use your Google account. You know? So we have misused, the correct word is we have misused. We have misused our Google, Gmail, Outlook accounts. We are using them to log into everything. Now, 2019, Yahoo was hacked big time. And then you know what we do? When they ask for your recovery email, you do what? You give the other one. So when this one is hacked, both your accounts are hacked. And these are the same 2 accounts that you're using to log into everything. There's a site called Have I Been Pwned? Please find, okay, I'll share it. There's a site called Have I Been Pwned? I challenge you. Look for Have I Been Pwned? I'll share the link. Enter your Google address. If there's one person seated here who has not been breached, I'll give you a gift. I will give you a gift. It's called Have I Been Pwned? Pwned means have I been owned? If someone has your credentials, they literally own you. So it means have I been owned? Yeah? So, and that is what has happened. So, and the bad thing is that as technology has continued to evolve and has continued to mature, the laws that protect you and your information have not matured as fast. And that is what the European Union realized. And they came up with the General Data Protection Regulation that was supposed to protect personal information against corporates' misuse. Right? But the European Union did it so well and so effectively. That is the benchmark that every other company, or every other, actually, both companies and countries, because the European Union has bound companies. If you hold the data of any EU citizen, you are liable. You have to protect it. And if it is breached, the responsibility is upon you. Good thing, right? They're protecting your personal information. So companies have to take care of it. Now, this is what other countries did. Kenya, case in point, went, picked a section of the GDPR, small sections of it, came up with a very weak law. In fact, in Africa, our law is one of the weakest. I'm not lying to you. You can go to a site called DLA Piper. They are lawyers. They look at all the data protection laws in the world. It's called DLA Piper. If you go, Kenya is one of the weakest laws in the world, and I'll tell you why. The European Union capped there, if an organization is breached and your personal information is exposed, the European Union requires companies to pay up to 4% of their global profit. So if it's Google, all the money they make across the world, 4%. Across. So they'll take your profits from USA, Kenya, Australia, 4%. That is painful for any business. What did the Kenya Data Protection Act do? Capped it at 5 million. Safaricom makes 50 million, more than 500 million in a second. Are we getting where the problem is? Do you think that law is effective? It is not effective. It needs to change. And this is, I go back to a culture thing. Yeah? So we are in the technology space, but I think we are still trying to identify how do we navigate this space that we have found ourselves in. And it has become a challenge. I'll give you another issue that we have. I know I'm speaking to leaders here, this country's leaders here, and that is why I've decided to talk about this. Another issue that we have here is we do not value our professionals. The West has put in so much money to educate people, professionals, and even citizens on information security. The government specifically comes out and says, we are educating anyone. That is America. Obama passed a law before he left as president, and said anyone who wants to study cybersecurity in this country will be funded. Why? Because they realized they've moved all their information to the cyberspace. And the game is different. The game changes, you know. You're coming from the physical space, you're going to the cyberspace. The game has completely changed. Out here, you're playing with people who've been in the wild, wild west for ages. Russia, my favorite topic. They're the greatest hackers in the world. If Russians get access to one of your computers, in 18 seconds, they've gone through your whole network. All your computers are down. That's what they did to Ukraine the first time. They sent a malware to a company in Ukraine. This company was a shipping company. So when a small, but one of the, in fact, it was one of the third parties of this shipping company that was using their software. They downloaded that malware. And every other system that was connected was interlinked, got hacked. Within 2 hours, there was complete chaos across the world. They could not recover their backups. Ransomware attack. The attackers completely locked it down, encrypted everything. No access. Do you know what saved them? They had a server in a remote location in Ghana. When the ransomware was spreading across all the countries in the world, that particular area in Ghana had experienced what we usually experience in Africa, a blackout. That is the only reason that organization was able to recover their information. They sent professionals from Europe, immediate flights, to go to Ghana to copy the information so that they could restore. And this was 2 weeks later. Can you imagine how much business they had lost? Trying to recover. Everywhere they're trying to get their information locked, ransomware, locked. Every single computer. And this is an organization that has thousands of employees. The work came to a standstill. All the IT professionals were called to one location in London to sort out this problem. A little country in Africa saved them. Because of a blackout, because of problems, third world problems, saved them. Huh? You see? Yeah? So this is why we need to seriously consider what we are doing. So the West has taken the time to educate their young people, their professionals. They've educated them. Now I'll give you an incident. In 2018, I got admitted to go to Oxford to study cybersecurity as my PhD. I went to the government of Kenya to ask for a scholarship. Well, I'm still here, so evidently. Evidently, that did not happen. But what I'm trying to say is we need to rethink. And right now, we have no gears. We have no reverse gear. We can't go backwards. We are already on the cyberspace, and we are here to stay. We are at a time and place in our lives where I'm speaking here today. These guys are recording me live. Anyone is watching me across the world. Things have changed. They will take a picture, or they'll take the video, it will be converted to a picture. We are living in an age of what we call liquid technology. And as long as we are living in an age of liquid technology, cybersecurity is paramount. We have to think about everything that we share. We have to even think about the kind of information we are creating. We never think about that. You see, we usually think about who is it going to. But are you thinking about what type of information am I generating? We have to think about that. We have to look at the data life cycle in totality, from creation to sharing of the information, to storage of the information, to archival, and to destruction of the information. We have to think about all that when we are dealing with how we handle our information in this day and age. Because it's not business as usual, I promise you. So you guys were told it was Anonymous Sudan. It was not Anonymous Sudan, it was Russia. Okay? So Russia are using a pseudonym to terrorize. Exactly. And now here is the thing. Some of these types of attacks happen because there's government funding. Another thing I'll tell you that we have wrong in our culture is this. In the US, how many students have you had in this country who've broken into a system and they're convicted? Huh? A lot. In America, if a student did that, Google will give them a job tomorrow. Because if you can breach my system, it means that you know something that I do not know. So in America, they have this program called bug bounty. People in cybersecurity, when we talk about a bug I'll talk about that right now. I was talking about the 3 ways we get into your systems. By the way, it's only 3 ways. 3. I walk around with a software in my phone that if you log into public Wi-Fi, I can see what you're accessing. I'll just click. At the click of a button, I will see, this person is on Google. This person is I don't know where, everything. And that's the reality of where we are now. Yeah? So there are only 3 ways that we get access to your systems. And one of them, and anyway, all of them are loopholes. And that's why we call any loophole we identify in a system, we call it a bug. Software developers know this. It's a bug in your system. So the bug bounty program is where young people or anyone who's curious, who wants to try and discover how these things work, is given an amount of money. If you breach a certain organization, they actually reward you. And this is important. Why? Because in the West, they have been compelled that if you experience a breach, you should report it to the regulators. In Kenya, have you ever had anything like that? In fact, when we are breached, we say, no information was stolen. No information was lost. There's no organization that will come out in Kenya and tell you that we've actually been breached. And that is why we do not have any regulation compelling us to do that. And I think that's important. And we need to start thinking about that. Why? Because once you have a regulation that compels you to actually say that you have been breached, then people start to experience more due diligence in how they're dealing with information. People become more careful. People will exert more effort into putting in mechanisms that will actually protect this information. So now, our bug bounty program, back to that, I'll talk about that. So those are a few of the things that we need to correct as a country, and that's a cultural thing. And that's why I keep going back to culture. It's a culture thing. And we can see it. Kenyans are very laissez-faire. We are very easy people. We like having a good time. And we've transferred our bad habits onto the cyberspace. It's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. We've transferred our bad habits onto the cyberspace. We cannot be careless with sensitive information. And you know what? Sometimes we have to help the government because they are overwhelmed. This business of walking into buildings to leave your information must stop. And we are the ones who must stop it. And if someone asked how they get your numbers, people in committee, that's how. Have you ever thought to ask where they take that book after you've put in your information? Where do they take it? Do you know? No. Eh? After it is full, where do they take those books? Huh? So these people, so your information, you start receiving funny messages, you're wondering, where did this person even get my number? It's very simple. Our information is everywhere. It is literally everywhere. I walked into a building, was it early last year? No, early 2021, mid-2021. I walked into a building, actually it was International House in Nairobi. I walked into International House like this, and the minute I walked in, a photo of my face was taken. No one told me anything. No one asked me any questions. And I really caused trouble that day. I was like, if you have to take me to the computer where you have stored my image, you shall take me. Because first of all, you did not ask for my consent. I don't know what you're going to do with my face. So there's a particular type of information that is very critical. 2 weeks ago, at the same time our country was being terrorized, what was going on? People were voluntarily giving their WorldCoin. So these people are claiming, the creator of WorldCoin says that they are trying to create a global identity so that all almost 8 billion people of us can be identified from one source. That's one database. You tell me, do you think that is a very secure? That is a very secure project. And instead of using even the regular data, okay, use my name, you know, they go for the only thing that actually differentiates you from another person, your biometric data. Now that person truly owns you. They have all your names. They have everything. Because the iris is used to grant access. There are people here who have some certain types of cell phones. The Apple, iPhones, and some people unlock their phone using their face. The technology they're using is the iris, because that's the distinct feature that no one else has that you have. And the thumb, when you use the thumb, you know, so your particular DNA. So we become so careful that we actually just selling our birthright for a bowl of soup. 5,000 shillings? Don't you think there's a culture problem here? Is it surprising that Kenyans are termed the most careless on the internet? Yeah? There's a big culture here. And it all starts with awareness. And that's why I was very happy to come and do this. I've been meaning to do this for a long time. But my voice has been, but thank God, it is coming back. I can say amen, it is coming back. Yeah? So we need to work together. The cybersecurity professionals are not enough. We have a 4 million global shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Companies, big companies, cannot fill cybersecurity positions. By the time I was starting to work with IKEA, Sweden, we know the furniture. We know IKEA from the furniture, but it's much, much bigger than that. Yeah. By the time I was starting to work with IKEA had about 45 cybersecurity professionals. Then something happened. By the time the hiring process for me started in around April, and I started working with them in around September. By the time it was getting to December, we were 260 cybersecurity professionals. Only 260. So cybersecurity governance, cybersecurity assurance, which is where I sat, cybersecurity and privacy, we were 260 from 40. And that should tell you something. But in Kenya, we have problems. Yes, people don't have jobs, but now this is what we're doing. We are encouraging them to start their own jobs. People in cybersecurity, in fact, have the best opportunity to start companies. Because if I'm being looked for in Kenya to be a consultant for a company in Sweden, there's a problem, right? There's a problem. The number of Indians I met in IKEA is astounding. It's amazing. They were like half the cybersecurity professionals that we had. You know, and Indians are brilliant, of course. So they're actually getting, and now they're moving to Africa. They're actually getting a lot of cybersecurity professionals because they've realized they do not have the capacity. We are fighting against some types of individuals who are even government funded. Okay, so, and there's this thing that we usually joke about as cybersecurity professionals. In the business, we are busy sitting down and writing strategies. While hackers are busy doing what? Discovering where you're weak and discovering the new next thing. Us guys are busy writing strategies, and that needs to change. Even our strategies need to change. Yes, the strategy is important because it will tell you, it will help you identify these are our weak points, these are our weak points, and this is what we need to do in order for us to be able to do what? To secure ourselves, right? Please tell me when yeah, and this is what we need to do to secure ourselves. But this is what happens, right? Because we don't have the time to actually, and we don't even, we have, I don't know whether we have not identified what the weakness is because we don't have the visibility, because we don't even have an adequate number of professionals, or we are just careless. I'm confused, honestly. I don't know which one it is. Because I can tell you, the type of controls that organizations in Europe and the governments have put to protect their information is on another level. So I know you've been waiting for this. The three things. I think I've driven the point home. I don't need to belabor the point. The next time we'll actually, let me talk about this before. There's a tool called Shodan. Shodan. When I go to Shodan, if your internet is weak, I can see the camera in your house. Do you know the way parents put webcams when they have children? You can actually see into the child's room. There's silence. What does that mean? Exactly. And this Shodan is actually what? Free. It's more like maybe what, $5 per month to use it? You know? A complete set of hacking tools. In fact, the hacking tool that we use, Kali, is completely free. Anyone can download it. There are so many videos online on how to become a hacker. So many people are actually using it. So many. Now, there are even some videos that you don't even have to learn. I mean, some software that you don't even have to learn anything. You just click, and they're $1. So now when you put your information out there, how do you expect not to be pwned? You shall be owned, right? You shall be owned. So there are three ways, as I close, there are three ways that we get access into any system. Three things, three particular bugs that give us access to anything. One, weak passwords. That's usually the number one. 98% of the attacks that happen are due to weak passwords. 2, social engineering. Social engineering is a technique where we play with your psychology. Like these people in committee, or this person who tells you, I sent you M-Pesa, please reverse. Tuma kwa ile namba ingine. Ama I sent you M-Pesa, tuma kwa ile namba ingine. Ama mwingine anakuambia, there are job opportunities here. This one I've seen a lot. Even in our Kilimani groups, I'm talking to people here. There are job opportunities here. There's this and this and this here. Click on this link. So you find these forwards, so many of them. People are clicking on links. Before you know it, the whole country is under attack. Right? So social engineering. We play with your psychology. Hackers have understood that cybersecurity is a human thing, while organizations are still trying to figure out strategy. The hackers are on this other side. They have figured out that this is a psychology, it's a human thing. So they know that what are our weaknesses. First of all, we are fearful. So if someone tells you that your account will be attacked if you do not upgrade your, or give your details, you'll give it. Fear. They know that we don't want that. So they pry on our weaknesses to actually expose us. The next thing is they know we like to be happy. So they'll tell you something, if you want to win an award, if you want to win, press this. You'll get an iPhone. Who wouldn't go for that one? Neighbors, those promotions. The promotions. So they're there, the promotions, they'll tell you yes. So they know we like good things. We are fearful of losing things that they have studied all that. So hacking is actually a technical thing and a psychological thing. It's in between. And the same applies to cybersecurity. Protecting your information has to come from both sides. Bruce Schneier, he's a cybersecurity professor in the University of Cambridge. Bruce Schneier, I had the opportunity of meeting him when I was applying to University of Cambridge, and he's the one who did my first interview. And he actually selected me, but Cambridge, the program was not like the Oxford one. The Oxford one had a mix of it had business, psychology, and tech, which is what I wanted. The Cambridge one was more very technical. Very, very technical. So I actually got the opportunity of meeting him, which made me very happy. Bruce Schneier said this one thing. He said, security is both a feeling and a reality, and the two are not the same. You can feel secure. Does it mean that you are truly secure? Or you can feel that you're not protected, but sometimes you are actually, you've put adequate. There, it's never 100%. In cybersecurity, we have no risk-free environment, but you have put sufficient, controls to protect you to a certain extent. And so we have to come to the point where we are looking at, we have to start introspecting and asking ourselves, do I need this application? Do I need this application? Why? Give me an example of an application. I've already used Uber. Okay, not Instagram. Telegram, not that one. That one needs. Let me look for a different application. No, LinkedIn. There are certain applications, particularly the ones that we have on our mobile phones. Glovo. Glovo is a good example because Glovo brings us food to your doorstep. Very convenient, right? Why does Glovo need access to your contact list? You tell me today. So, but why do they need access? Do they need it to bring the food to your doorstep, yours? Yeah. So why do they need it? These are the things. And this is where regulation is lagging behind. Regulation has to get to a point, if you are taking food to this person, that's all you have to access. But because of convenience, you look at it, and they ask you even for your camera. Now, that is the best thing that we use for hacking. Once you give us access to your camera, you've given us access to everything. So we have your contacts, we have your camera, we can read your messages. So these applications, we need to seriously think, and developers need to, sometimes developers are driven by the organizations that employ them. They don't really have an option. So they have to go by what? But at the same time, it's because a lot of developers are not trained on cybersecurity issues, which becomes a problem. So we are on the internet, living in the cyberspace. We are developing applications for cyberspace, but we are not considering the security around those applications. There's a challenge, right? Yeah. So I said the first thing is usually weak credentials, passwords. The second thing is social engineering. The third thing is a bug in your software or a misconfiguration. So if I come online, I can tell you, there's a big organization, again, I think. I'm not sure whether it was Google. Okay, let me give an example of Heathrow, first and foremost. Heathrow Airport was hacked. Why? Because, and it was chaos for people who were traveling that day. Planes could not fly. We've taken everything online. It was complete chaos in Heathrow. And how many planes passed through Heathrow in a day? Someone who works in Heathrow forgot a flash disk on a seat that had corporate information. And that was it. It caused pandemonium for about 36 to 48 hours in Heathrow. Another thing, a lot of times we've done this thing called moving your business to the cloud. Sindio, it's very good because you don't have to do the hard work. A third party is doing the hard work for you. Very convenient. Sindio? Huh? Yeah. A third party is doing the work for you. Move all your server controls, even your own disaster recovery. Imagine. So we moved everything, including how to recover. Everything. We've let go completely, So now, one organization, I can't remember which particular one it was, but they had stored some of their critical information on Amazon, on an Amazon bucket. We call them buckets. On an S3 Amazon bucket. So they stored this information of theirs there. And this is the issue that arises when we're dealing with third parties. Sometimes we are like, where does our responsibility end and theirs begin. Our vendors, our suppliers, where does our responsibility end and where does theirs begin? So these people have put all their information on this Amazon basket, totally unaware that it was completely open, no passwords, nothing. Who do you blame there? The company or the third party? The company, right? Yeah, because you have to do your due diligence. And these guys were seriously hacked. Proper hacking. That's what happened. So the third thing that we do is misconfiguration. That was an issue of, it was not even a weak password. It didn't exist. It was not configured to exist. So those are the 3 ways that I promise you, if you have any one of those 3 ways, I will get access to your phone or your laptop. Clean. No question about it. Or your company's network. I think I have exhausted my time. And I think I have left food for thought. Huh? You check, to check if you've been hacked, it's called Have I Been Pwned? But it's spelled P-W-N-E-D. Have I been pwned? Have I been pwned? Can someone, the people who are projecting, are you able to, can you find it? Have I been pwned? And then you share the link. Yeah. So if you go to Have I Been Pwned, they will tell you which, if your account has been used, now you can even use your phone number. So you can enter either your email address or your phone number. And why? Because when Google asks you, do you want to use a recovery email or a recovery phone number? Which one is more convenient? Phone number. Uh-huh. So when Google is hacked, they get access to your phone number, they get access to everything. So now you can use your phone number to check if you have been pwned. Yeah? Okay. With that, I shall end. I've been talking the whole day to children and now to adults. I have exhausted my quota. But I'll tell you, we seriously need to come up with a culture of cyber hygiene. We need to create strong passwords. We need to think before we download applications. We need to think about the type of information we are accessing. We need to think about who we are giving access to our information. Because once you say, use my Google account, you've basically given that other company your Google account. So we need to seriously think about that. Who am I giving access to my information? Is it necessary? Children, we leave our phones with children all the time. We hardly ever trace what this child has been looking at. And that is one of the biggest ways that malware is downloaded onto our phones. Some of us, I told you it takes 296 days to discover if you've been hacked. Some of you guys are living with hackers in your households, in your Wi-Fi. And you don't know, you'll discover after 296 days, after the event. Okay, I'll tell you what a strong password is. Can I do that for a few minutes? So a strong password is, and I'll give you the genesis of why that's a strong password. How does your M-Pesa PIN look like? 4 digits. What does the number space of the digit system look like? It's only 10 numbers, right? It's only 10 numbers. Mathematicians here, permutations and combinations. How long will it take you to crack a 4-digit PIN? Your ATM card, 4-digit PIN. Combinations and permutations. That's what by the computer by definition is a gadget that enables you to compute faster. In a nutshell, that's what it is. So by 2017, when the Core i5, now we are in Core i9, the Core i5 could compute 9 billion. Oh, no, actually, it was 9 billion permutations in a second. You have a 4-digit PIN. How long will it take a password cracker to crack your 4-digit PIN? Microseconds. Now, So we have 10 numbers in the digital numbering system, right? You're told you must add the alphabet, which has 26 numbers, lowercase, 26 letters lowercase, 26 letters uppercase. If you put that together, it becomes 52. If you add the 10, so you're told use a number, use a lowercase letter, uppercase letter. If you add the 10, we've already gotten to what? 62. If you add a special character, which is Anna, now try to do the combinations and permutations. Understood? That's why we need strong passwords. And that's how a strong password looks. Simply because of the computation power. The core i9, which is, I believe, where we are now, can process 1 trillion computations in a second. So we really need to change some of these cultures. I don't understand why we still have 4-digit pins for anything. I don't understand. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to me. I didn't use my slides, but yes, I normally do this. Even when I go for conferences, I end up talking and just, yeah. But thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we will have more of this in the future. Yeah, thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah. That was heavy stuff. How is your adrenaline? Your heart rate? Wow, this is very, very serious information, but very, very important. Now you know your security, your phone, your passwords. Thank you so much, Aprielle. That was such good information. We definitely need you back. We will need you back. If you have questions, kindly write them down, pass them on to Alex, to communication team. They will pass the questions to Aprielle and she will answer them. You will get your answers. Thank you very, very much, Aprielle, for that. I think that we should get the choir. The choir, Riverside, kindly come and help us to cool down our heart rates and yes. Thank you.